My dear friends, we live in a crazy world. A world where knowledge is everywhere, yet truth feels nowhere. A world where information travels at the speed of light, yet wisdom struggles to keep up. And in this confusion, the words of Christ echo across the centuries. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Not a way, not a version of truth, not one option among many. The way, the truth, the life. Today, how many voices claim to possess the truth? How many institutions, platforms, and personalities present themselves as authorities? Never before in human history has truth been so contested, so fragmented, so muddled. We now stand at the dawn of a new technological age, shaped by artificial intelligence. And with it comes extraordinary powers. The ability to generate images, videos, books, entire realities that can be totally convincing and yet totally false. A face that never existed can speak. A voice that was never recorded can persuade. A story that has never happened can be believed by millions. In such a world, how do we discern what is real? How do we anchor ourselves when even our senses can be deceived? We are being pushed, whether we like it or not, into a deeper question, the very question Pilate asked Jesus before condemning him. What is truth? And consequently, whom do we trust? We surely all remember this sentence that was pushed on us a few years ago. Trust the science. Yes, science is a powerful and noble pursuit. It is humanity's disciplined effort to uncover the patterns of creation, to understand the laws written into the fabric of the universe. Up to a point, we can and should trust it. But let us be honest, science is not infallible. It is conducted by human beings. Science is brilliant, yes, but also limited, biased, and often driven by forces beyond truth, such as money. Science without conscience is the soul's perdition. It becomes a tool not for discovery, but for justification. A machine not for truth, but for profit. Who else is there? Can we trust politicians? Can we trust the news? Deep down, we already know the answer. Politics, when detached from Christ, becomes a contest for power rather than a service to the common good. And history shows us where that road leads, to oppression, to exploitation, to war, as we sadly witness today. The news without integrity ceases to inform and begins to manipulate. It becomes not a mirror of reality, but a tool to shape perception, a form of propaganda dressed up as truth. Without Christ, everything we build begins to twist. Healthcare, without the light of Christ, becomes a marketplace of life and death, where the vulnerable at the beginning or at the end of life are no longer protected, no longer cared, but quietly discarded. Education without Christ loses its soul. It ceases to form minds in truth and instead begins to mold them according to ideology. It becomes indoctrination. Justice without Christ loses its foundation. It no longer seeks what is right, and instead enforces what is convenient for the powerful. Injustice then wears the mask of righteousness. And yes, haven't we seen that nowadays? Without Christ, businesses engage in a race for profit without moral grounding. They lead to exploitation, where corners are cut, and ultimately, through them, poisons enter our foods, devices become hazardous, and the health of entire populations is sacrificed for gain. Technology without Christ turns into an insidious control mechanism. It monitors, it predicts, its algorithms influence us until freedom itself becomes an illusion. Agriculture without Christ forgets stewardship. The earth is no longer cared for, but is used, depleted, exhausted. Fertility gives way to barrenness. And as Pope Francis warned, the external deserts in the world are growing because the deserts in people's hearts have become so vast. Yes, our world is in crisis. This crisis is not just political, is not just technological, it is not economical. This crisis is deeply spiritual. Because when the human heart becomes a desert, when it is cut off from God, it begins to hunger. And in that hunger, we turn to lesser things, to pleasure without purpose, to wealth without limit, to power without restraint. We become slaves to our own passions, slaves to lust, slaves to greed. These problems are not failure of intelligence. They are failures of orientation. As a society, we have turned away from God. We have chosen our will over His, and God heard us and left us to our own devices. Until that changes, no amount of progress will save us from ourselves, because the problem is not out there. The problem is within us. And so there is only one solution. The solution of all the world's problem is a return to Christ. Not partially, not casually, not just a stamp of belonging, but with all our strength, all our mind, and all our will. Because only Christ is the way when we are lost. Only Christ is the truth when we are deceived. Only Christ is the life when everything around us seems to die. If we want a different world, we must become different people. If we want truth, we must follow Him who is truth. And if we want life, real, abundant, eternal life, then we must turn back, together with courage and conviction, to the one who has been calling us all along. I am the way, the truth, and the life. The question is, how far will we follow His way?